Hey everybody, Joel here. So I'm starting a new project here in the kitchen. Actually, it's already been started because I've got the backer board up. But we're doing a tile backsplash and all the way around. Just gonna get some protection on the countertop. But what I had done here is I just laid out some tiles just to get a good look at how the spacing will be if I just start with a full tile right from the corner here. And if I get my spaces in there, lo and behold, it works out to where there's an exact piece right at the end. So the other thing you want to try to determine is if you want to start in the center of your faucet with a seam or with a full tile, the center of a full tile, that's something to consider also. So our sink is not centered. Let me move these rags out of the way. Our sink is not centered. The faucet is centered on the opening, but the sink has a larger bay and the smaller bay. And I think the seam being right here might be just fine. I don't think I need to pull it back to try to center a seam right on there, because then we're gonna have such a tiny little piece down on that end. I think we're better off just going ahead and laying them out exactly like they are. This actually worked out pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna tape off the countertop, put some protection down on that so the quartz doesn't get scratched. And then we'll go from there. I've got to take my receptacle plates off and mix up some mortar for the back. And we'll start setting some tile. Before getting any of the mastic ready to put up, I like to go ahead and cut the trim pieces so they're ready to go on. So I've seen it done two different ways. Some guys will put these things in and let them dry and set up and then go ahead and take off with their tile. But I just go ahead and I put them in as I'm setting the tile. That way I've got a little bit of adjustment with tile. I can just make it look like I want it to look. So while it's wet, obviously I'll cover up this little blemish here, bring it out on the outside. And that'll be looking good. So I've got that one and I've got this cabinet transition piece done. And this is for the one side of the window here. And then I've got this other piece for the other side of the window. It's just simply mitered, 45 degrees, just taking it across and down to the sill plate. And I've got a piece over here. And I'm thinking behind the stove, usually a guy might just kind of run one line right straight across there because it will be covered by the stove. But if I have enough tile, I think I'm gonna go ahead and drop one more tile down and put a trim piece down there also. I'm 2 inches shy, well about 1.5 inches shy, so I've got one little short piece and I've got the longer piece. So I'll just have a seam in that. Nobody will ever see it, but it'll look a little bit nicer finished off, even though it is behind the range. All of these outlet boxes are adjustable, and that's really a nice feature. Being an electrician, I always just kind of stuck the boxes out. If they're gonna do tile, or you just use those plastic inserts, but these with the adjustable depth on them are really nice. You can kind of leave it out a little proud, and then once you get all your tiles set and ready to go, just drill this screw in a little bit, and it's gonna suck that right up to the tile. It's really a nice feature. I like that they took the time to do that, because it does take extra time to mount these things horizontally for one thing, and then just to have them all adjusted properly. Tile saw is all set up out here in the garage where we'll make the mess. I've got about 3 gallons of water in the tray, and I'll try to get some video of actually cutting some tile, but the water then comes out and keeps that diamond blade cool as you're cutting. There's just a little tiny pump in the tray here, and that's plugged into the switch of the saw itself. And maybe you'd like to see what type of saw it is. It's just a rigid tile saw. I do have a video on it. Maybe I'll put a link on here for it, or can search it up, but we'll get going here. So the first section is pretty much set up here. It's the following morning. Got the edge in there. I've been using the spacers. This tile is pretty nice, has been pretty nice to work with. So we're getting things laid up pretty good. So I'm just following the countertop. This quartz counter is pretty good for flat, level, and straight. But I have had just a couple of issues. I don't know if a little tiny pebble has gotten underneath or whatever. I'm trying to keep them straight going along. But we're just about past the faucet here with both rows. So next we'll start cutting in these pieces to get down to the final end here for the sink side, and then we'll wrap right around the corner and get behind the stove and finish out at the refrigerator. So I've got a couple of hours this morning before I have an engagement to get to, and then I'll be back after that again, and we'll just keep rolling right along. Well, my apologies on not getting some action shots, but I guess I'll just tell you that it's good to have your mastic or your grout, whatever you want to call the glue, the mortar, or whatever. I like to have it about like pancake batter. Here's my empty pail. I just got cleaned up. But I run it just about like pancake batter. You can see some right here that's dried up consistency-wise. It's not really dry because your tile is just gonna not adhere as well. You want a little bit of moisture in there, so it's going to adhere to the wall. So, but I've got it in, but I'll tell you what, I made a mistake. I thought I was laying everything out just beautifully and along here, and I did for that first row. It was perfect. I didn't have to cut anything for the first row, but then we had a little bit of a hiccup over here where a grout line, the edge of the tile was right here. Well, the former tile that was on the backsplash came over to here. They notched around this and came up, just let the tile run wild right here, and they grouted it in. Looked really nice. But I didn't want to cut a small piece in here. So I put my finished piece in here like this. I think it's going to turn out just fine. I can grout that, can put a little caulk in the seam here, touch up paint, and so on, and that's going to work out great. But with that happening, I had to move my piece down just a little bit to match on the other side. So here we've got this grout line. If I were to have had that grout line right here in this next tile up, that would have looked terrible having that small piece. So I made an executive decision, and I put the little piece down in the corner where it's not likely to be seen as much. So really, somebody who does this all the time will be able to see it right away, but you can see these grout lines are matched up. Those seams are matched up, but then when you get to the next one here, it jogs over just a hair. And then this one jogs over just a hair also. And then there's a tiny little piece in the corner. But I guess all in all, I'm real happy with it. I did measure out to where I got pretty much right in the center with this seam right in the center of the range. That's something that you want to get as close as you can. It's not exactly exact, but it's real close because I started right at the edge over here with a full tile, and I thought that worked out pretty good. Got under cabinet lighting going in still. But yeah, a little bit winded because I've been running pretty fast here just to get this done. Another little detail is to drop, I think I mentioned it earlier, is to drop this tile down below here. I had some leftover edging, so run some edging on there, and it was actually a little short. I had to piece in a piece at the end, but you can't even really see it. Once it's grouted, it's going to look great. These were the last two tiles I put in, and I had to kind of hang them with the blue tape. Otherwise, they would have slid. They would have slid down. So I just wanted to have that little added security on there to hold it into place. But I don't know. I think it's coming together pretty decent. We'll let this dry and set up nicely, and I'll throw some grout in later on. So getting going on the grouting here. You can see that I've got the tile up. It's dried for 24 hours. And I didn't have a pail. I used my pail for the mastic, and I couldn't find another pail, and I'm using this paint tray for the grout. Actually, is working pretty well. So I got started on the far side. Got to continue on here, but you can see the transition there. Got it all grouted in, and I didn't know how much to mix up, so I stopped right there and ended up, then I went back with the sponge and the water. I let it set up just a little bit for how far I had gone. It had set up over here, and when I first started, I mixed this part probably just a little bit too sticky or too dense, so I was really struggling with that. So I added just a touch more water, and it really worked out nice. You want a kind of a plaster of Paris, maybe a little bit thicker than a plaster of Paris mixture, and then it'll squeeze right into the joints quite nicely. So I'm going to keep rolling around here. One thing also, when you're running your what would you call this, your spatula, your trowel, your grout trowel, I guess is what this would be called. Run that at a 45-degree angle when you're pulling the grout into the joints. That's going to squeeze it in there really nice and deep. And then when you come back, you can kind of get it a little bit of a squeegee at more of a 90-degree angle to kind of clean up the tile a little bit. It's tough working around the outlets. My squeegee doesn't get down in there. The grout trowel doesn't get down in underneath there. So I got to kind of pack it in, but I think it's going pretty good. Sometimes you just got to use your finger to get it into the joint. But as you can see, it's turning out pretty decent. And you want to focus a little bit on these other areas too, where maybe your cut was a little large or you've got a bit of a gap. Just go ahead and fill that area with grout also. But it's coming along. So all I can really say is once you get the sponge out and you start wiping and cleaning up the grout, just kind of seating it in place and getting all the tight nooks and crannies, is you just got to keep rinsing and keep on wiping, keep on rinsing and keep on wiping. It all comes together. I need this plate broke a couple of times ago when I was breaking off the old Backsplash. I broke the plate, so just got to get a new one of those. But I think it came out pretty well. I'll do a video on the under cabinet lighting installation so we can get a look at it after the lights are all on too. Those should go in pretty decent. But you just got to continue to wipe because there's going to be a haze on everything. There's a haze on the tile, and I probably could give it one more really light wipe over here where the range is. But that's about it. I think we're looking pretty good. Thanks for watching. Any questions, just pop them down in the comment section below and I'll be watching for them. But thanks for watching. I'm really, really happy with how this tile job turned out. But we'll see you on the next video.